All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. My name is Charlie McGrath. I am the founder of WideAwakeNews.com, and I am quite also the founder of Wide Awake News Radio. So I am pleased to announce that on this 13th day of August, I have my buddy Craig Simpson sitting in with me to help fill in some much needed information for tonight's program. Craig knows that I've had quite an interesting day, another bout with asthma that landed me up in a hospital this morning. So it's been a day of not doing much of anything except trying to regroup and recover a little bit. So I want to thank you, Craig, for coming on here and hanging out with me tonight.
Oh, not a problem at all, of course.
Yeah, and I should make the mention that we are probably going to get to the point where we have Craig do some guest hosting solo over here at Wide Awake News Radio, so I'm happy about that. Yeah. Are you happy?
Well,
are you happy, excited about that, Craig?
I am. I mean, I think I'm one of those people, when I start talking stuff, it's hard to stop. So, an audience can be a dangerous thing to give me. So,
well, I think you'll do just fine. I do want to welcome everybody to come on over to WideAwakeNews.com. Click on the WAN radio button, and you can join the chat. And still, I'll talk a little bit about the chat. I'm still undetermined which way to go with it. Obviously, it's there and it's active during the program. If it weren't for the people that loyally show up there every single night. Craig, can you hear me? Craig?
Oh, I'm here. I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I cut out for a minute, but it seems to be back and running now. I was talking about the chat room and just saying that I'm still up in the air on what to do there. We still have people that show up there every night who like to be in there while the program's going. I just don't have any monitors in there now, so it's hard for me to promote it and try to fill that thing up when it's just kind of the Wild West. And so I don't know. I'm going to leave it as is for now. And if we can get to the point where we have people that want to do monitoring in there every night, then I think I can do another push to get that thing filled back up. At this point in time, I love it for the regulars. They're in there, they're BSing all the time, but we do get a lot of troll activity in there as well. And go in there at your own risk, I guess is what I'm saying. But you can go there, WideAwakeNews.com. Click on the Wide Awake Radio or WAN Radio tab, and you can go into chat, listen to the program there, and hang out with the folks we have in there now. Craig, what is on your mind tonight? I mean, we talked a little bit before the program. There's a plethora of stories. Go ahead.
Well, something that comes to mind, I think if there's one thing that I've been contemplating today, and your co-host on Doomcast actually Skyped me the link just now. So, and it was something, a link about it, and it's something I've been thinking about today. Over at Blacklisted News, you'll see a new headline, Anonymous releases police audio from day of Mike Brown murder. And I have not heard it yet, but it looks...
Let's see how long this thing is. I see it here. He sent it to me as well.
Yeah.
Let me see how long it is, and it's an hour. All right, so what I'll do is
it's from 3:05 p.m. to 3:35 p.m. So the whole thing is an hour, but okay, so we'd have to find the exact moment, but there is some text that was added.
Let me see. I'm reading at the same time here. Doug, if you're listening and you know where to start that, let me know, and maybe after the break I can play a chunk of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and so along with that, so that's definitely something I was thinking about today. But one thing I noticed with this, of course, there's the youngster who was shot. Of course, that's unfortunate, but it makes me think of two things. One is the public response. So, I mean, of course, there's violence, there's looting. And, I understand people's frustration, but that's not exactly helpful to anyone in any way. And it is an emotional response, and it's not good. But the one thing is, when it comes to, justice, it seems like even though there may be a lot of anger towards the cops, it doesn't appear from anything I've been able to find, and I have been looking at this story, there's really there all the witnesses that have come forth that I've been able to find to read about, they're family or friends, and it doesn't seem like there's really any unbiased testimony yet as to what happened. So,
will there be? I mean, both sides are going to. I mean, the police are going to say it was righteous. I can't imagine that they're not. And this notion that they're having, the St. Louis police handle the investigation, and somehow that's going to be more objective.
That's as silly as the IRS investigating the IRS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still going to come out, and we've seen it time and time again. It comes out in favor of the officers, and it could be. I mean, you could have blatant murder on YouTube. Look at that New Mexico vagrant that was shot and murdered, for all the world to see. And, very most a slap on the wrist. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody's going to prison over these things. And that's the thing with YouTube. That's the thing with YouTube these days is that, and with the internet and people having video cameras on their phones. I mean, more and more we're seeing it on YouTube. We're seeing it online. So I think the populace knows that cops do just kill people. Yeah. So when you hear this story, you think, well, it's very likely the cop may have just shot this guy, but we don't know yet. I mean, there really isn't proof that I've seen yet that we don't really know that. So, but it does show how very easily that the population in this country can be incited into a witch hunt and how pissed off people are. I mean, this was an excuse to riot and loot. So it kind of shows me how on edge the population actually really is and how easily one wrong move could start a civil war. I mean, literally. And along with that, in watching this story, one thing that I just can't get over is we keep seeing pictures of, I believe it's the St. Louis Police Department. Is that who it is? Over there in Missouri. I know you guys have talked about this before, but what is with the militarization of cops? When I'm watching video of this and pictures of this, I was not that operator geared up when I was in the military in two conflicts where we were fighting. Yeah. I mean, I don't, and it kind of pisses me off because when I watch the body language of these police, it's really aggressive. Like when I was in Somalia and the city would start to riot and we had to kind of protect our base, basically, we never went out there with our rifles, aiming at the people. See, I noticed these cops, as soon as they get off the armored personnel carrier and they get out of it, they have their A4s aiming at the people. Right. Right. And when I was in the military, we didn't do that because that's an aggressive act in itself and it's dangerous. Right. And I start thinking, are these guys, are they not trained or what? So it makes me think, like, I kind of want to say, hey, cops, you're not operators. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And they really should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, aiming a A4 with an ACOG on it, that's what a peace officer needs. Yeah. At a crowd of people that are pissed off, that's a good way to incite. Yeah. It's a good way to get shots fired on both sides. Yeah. Yeah, and in this link that Doug sent us here, I mean, it shows these guys sitting on top of their up-armored, I don't know if they're MRAPs or what they are, but they're up-armored battle wagons, and, he's up there with, it looks like with some kind of bolt-action 308 sniper. He's all set up, ready, and pointing it at the crowd. Yeah, I mean, it's militarization, no doubt about it. I mean, it looks like, it not only does it look like regular military, it looks like special forces. Yeah, and it kind of bothers me, or it should bother anybody. But when I watch their mannerisms and I watch the way they move, I mean, for one thing, aiming your weapons into a crowd of people like that is a good way for an accident to happen. And what I don't get it is when I was in the military, we knew better than do that kind of thing, and we didn't do that kind of thing in truly hostile situations. Like you kept your weapons slung over your shoulder unless you had to go to work, unless you were shooting people. If not, don't aim the damn thing at them. Yeah. It just bothers me. I don't know. Are these guys trained or not? I really don't know. I feel like I'm seeing a bunch of postal workers with guns or something like that. And we're just waiting for something bad to happen. Yeah. And it seems that, there's a big push, I see these guys in the gym here. There's a big push to get them all beefed up, and half of them look like they're running through roids faster than they can get their hands on it. And these are supposed to be peacekeepers. Are they out there fighting guerrilla fighters? Are they out there? Are they battling ISIS on a day-to-day basis in the streets of America? Because that's what they're gearing up to.
And that's the thing, and they're not, and I hope that their situation isn't that bad on a daily basis. But one of the places that I go to do some IDPA shooting, and I do some just shooting in general, like the local SWAT team, or one of them, trains there sometimes. They'll be in one of the bays, and I want to talk to them. I'm like, hey, what do you think of that aim point? I mean, there's not much humor coming out of the guys, and it's one of the things that worries me was when I've been close to them, training nearby, is that when I was in the military and we were training, it was fun. I mean, yeah, you're training to kill people, but it was fun. And we had a great time. We always had the best time, like playing with claymores, throwing hand grenades, doing full auto training. We always had fun. And when I watch these guys training, they're not having fun. And there's something about that bothers me, because we were soldiers training for war, and we were having a blast because it is fun. I mean, if you've ever practiced amphibious landings, the Seabees do that. We have to do the beach landers, and you go onto the beach, you drop the front, you run shooting, dropping mags, covering each other. It's the most fun you can have, And we had fun. Like, literally, it was fun. You get to do things most people never get to do.
Right.
And these guys, I'm watching them train, and I'm like, trying to be, friendly, because I like the cops, and I think what they're doing is kind of neat and interesting. And it was a chilling experience. That's what I'd have to sum it up as. I was like, aren't you guys friendly? Aren't you happy? Aren't you having a good time?
Were they all mean mugging it out there?
Yeah. I just didn't get a good vibe. I mean, they weren't particularly chatty, and I didn't get a very good vibe. They seemed a little bit, just hostile, and they kind of gave me a sense of fear, a feeling of just of fear. And
I do believe they practice in intimidation. I mean, I believe they practice and study it and implement it. Probably more than any other weapon they have is their fear and intimidation.
Yeah, well, they're good at it because, for me, the fact that they're dressed in body armor doesn't really bother me. The fact that they're police doesn't bother me. I like police. And the fact that they have weapons doesn't bother me. So to me, I just, wanted to ask them about their, weapons and stuff like that. And they didn't like that, and I didn't talk to that many. It was only a few. Some might have been nicer, and they were training and they're probably tired, but still, it was a disturbing experience for me. And
well, Craig, I'm sorry you had to go through that, buddy.
I think I need therapy now. Maybe I should.
Well,
anyway.
hey, I do want to talk. This story is very interesting, and it's just it's developing and still going to continue to be in the headlines for quite some time. Of course, I've been following Ukraine,
yes,
like a hawk, and I find it interesting. Here we sit, waiting for. It's funny because I told Doug, I think on the last Doomcast, that we would see Russia inside of eastern Ukraine by the next Doomcast. I had no idea that it was going to be under the guise of the guise of a humanitarian relief effort. But it appears to all the world that that's what they're going to do to get inside eastern Ukraine, which could really be a very, very tenuous situation. And I think by design it will be. And I think as of the program tonight, like I said, most of my day was spent in an ER. But the last update I got was that they were held up about 180 miles from Ukraine, with squabbling now back in play between if the Ukrainians want them to come in or not. But mark my words, the Russians are going into eastern Ukraine. It's going to happen, and it might happen with a false flag on these white trucks that's initiated by Russia. It might be an actual legitimate attack by Ukraine. It might be pro-Russian separatists starting the frenzy, but Putin isn't backing down. He's made it completely clear that he is going to continue to act, if you will, in eastern Ukraine. And Poroshenko, he doesn't have a choice. There's no I'm going to do the right thing for the people of Ukraine and stop this violence. and allow referendums and let these people be self-governed. He doesn't have that option. He doesn't. The IMF won't let him do it. The Western powers in the EU and the powers that be of the West, period, are not going to let that happen. So this has to continue just to build as a powder keg. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts would be this reminds me of something that Deep Throat said, not the adult movie Deep Throat, but Deep Throat, who was given the kind of Snowden of the day, who was I think during Watergate was giving out some info, yeah. And so the original Deep Throat, I guess you'd say like the original Snowden, something he said has been just I keep hearing it over and over in my mind. He said, It goes roughly like this. It goes, you got to realize these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand fast.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about, because I think that when I look at our side of this, when I look at the current administration, and then I look at like the administration of Reagan when Russia and America were at odds, I'm not sure if we have people who are quite as good at it. I'm not saying I'm a Reagan fan, because I'm not, but I think we had, and you look at the Cuban Missile Crisis, we barely escaped possible nuclear war at that time. You had Reagan, you had Gorbachev during the Cold War, and I used to always envision when I was a kid that it was all made up, and they would grab that red phone that they had to communicate, and Reagan would have a beer and Gorbachev would have vodka, and they'd joke about how they just controlled the people with this fake crap, Yeah. So I'm not even sure if I believed in the Cold War, but yet still, we just had more hardcore players, and somehow when I look at the current administration, that's just what I think. These are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand fast, and I'm a little worried that things may get out of hand too fast. I don't know. That's what I can say. I mean, when that aid goes into eastern Ukraine, I agree. Putin's going to make sure it gets where it's going, and nothing's going to stop it. And Kiev's not going to like that. The Western, Ukraine forces are not going to like that. And I'm just worried that some of our not very bright guys are going to let things get out of hand. I mean, the thing for America to do, I believe, right now is just step back, just quit it, just stop.
Well, and the advance of sanctions, it is. I mean, there's no ramification coming to Russia because of these sanctions. I've been seeing story after story how whatever sector has come under scrutiny with sanctions, they're able to just make that up somewhere else, no problem, and it's actually hurting Western Europe a whole lot more than it's hurting Russia by far and away. I do find it troubling that our media, time and time again, you'll have these think tank individuals come on television and they label that. I mean, it's just outright blatant, not even trying to make a distinction between the pro-Russian separatists and what happened to make them pro-Russian separatists. They just absolutely call them thugs, drunken terrorists, and it is just painting a picture. The establishment media is painting it as these are nothing but a bunch of drunken scum, and Putin has the only want of blood to keep this going on, and the real truth isn't getting out there. I mean, the activities and events that led to where we're at right now, Craig, I know you know it. Probably most of the listeners know it, but we're to blame for this. We, the American people, by virtue of USAID and the National Endowment for Democracy, these quasi-government agencies spending all of our billions of dollars toppled the government in Ukraine and led to this crisis we have now. So there's no Malaysian airliner shot out of the air. There's no 2,086 dead in Donetsk and Lugansk over the last, that number doubling in the last 2 weeks. If it wasn't for us trying to insert and get our will done inside of Ukraine. So, yeah, you're right. We should have backed off a long time ago, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't.
Especially when it can be said that the U.S. and NATO, Western forces in general brought the toppling of the government to bear anyhow. So that definitely, when you start, we started it, and I think there's a lot of egos involved, and I think they might not be very bright guys, and I think it's already gotten out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, here we go. We're going to take our first break of the night. We'll be right back with Craig Simpson and more Wide Awake News Radio. Just hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I do want to make this announcement. If you were listening or going to be listening for us recording our Doug Owen and I's podcast, Doomcast, tonight, we usually do it on Wednesday nights. We're not. We're not going to record it till tomorrow, and it's going to be pretty late tomorrow night. So look for it late tomorrow being posted or Friday morning, but do not listen or look forward to listen to it tonight because you know what? It won't be there. We were talking during the break, Craig, about Putin and, the caliber. Excuse me. It doesn't really matter, if you're pro-Russian or pro-Putin. I mean, just the caliber of the individuals and their experience and their background. Putin has this whole situation well in hand and is very much in control of it, while a lot of the West is looking like a bunch of amateurs. Would you agree with that? I mean, that was your take, right?
Yeah, what we were talking about on the break was I was thinking how if I could be in the Oval Office right now and listen to them talking about this, having meetings, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some nervousness there because it was a standard operation. Let's go in, destabilize the government, put somebody we want to do business with in power, boom, done. But it didn't go so well, and it drug a superpower, Russia, into the situation.
Right.
And it's like Deep Throat said, how do you put that? He put you got to realize these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand fast. And so I think that's the West right now. That's us. And Deep Throat's back. And I look at Putin, not a Putin not a Putin fan, but yeah, his history is KGB, etc. And I feel that you're dealing with an extreme international gangster where running a country with an iron fist is just one of his projects. And I think that he is kind of old school. I think the Cold War never ended for him. I think he's been waiting for this moment, planning for it. Maybe he didn't think it would happen this quickly. Maybe he didn't know how it would start. But one way or the other, I think something he's been waiting for his whole life, definitely his whole time, in power in Russia, has been this moment. And I don't think there's anything that the West can do right or Kiev can do right. I don't. I think in the game of chess, I think we've already lost.
Well, I think you're right.
And do the BRIC nations even care? That's one thing about the more we push this, we become less relevant to the BRIC nations. And that's where a lot of development is right now. I mean, everything. It's one of those situations where we've all felt this sometimes in life, like everything you do is wrong. And at this moment, everything we do is wrong.
It seems as far as hotspots around the world, it's almost it's so wrong. It almost seems like it's right. You know what I mean? Like it's so wrong because we end up with these disasters, these destabilized messes all over the world. So you got to think to yourself, are these people just this incompetent? I mean, are we this incompetent to spend $2 trillion in Iraq and just leave it in a condition that is more destabilized than it's been in 1,000 years and leave it in just a complete and utter mess to the point that it's going to be a terrorist factory, basically? And then to even go one step further, not only is it a terrorist factory, we're funding it. We're funding it, and we're giving them the best military equipment available in the world today. So is that incompetence, guys, that are just not that bright, or is it by design so we can have an enemy in infinitum?
I wonder if it's well, there's definitely a lot of things I've read where I can't quote anyone exactly right now, like the source, but where I have read that, I mean, there is a lot of theory that, I mean, ISIS is a creation of the IDF, is a creation of the West, basically, so that you have your enemy forever. And it seems hard to believe, like, is this enemy created and paid for by us so we have somebody to fight forever? I remember when I went to the first Gulf War, and I remember historically pictures you would see of terrorists of the East, basically, Arab terrorists. And I remember jihadists, whatever you might want to call them, people in Somalia shooting at us. I remember the weapons they had. I remember the pictures I saw, and I remember what I saw when I was in the military. And they had old-ass AK-47s that probably got there from Vietnam, you know? And now, if you look at pictures of ISIS online driving through a newly acquired town, they have A4s with ACOGs on them.
That's right.
You know?
Driving like, up-armored Humvees.
They look like American cops. I mean, they are operators.
Yeah, maybe that's where our troops are getting their training, or vice versa. We're training them up, but they are driving up armored Humvees. You see them driving MRAMs, running around there. A lot of American equipment, very well funded, and even if we didn't outright fund them, we funded the situation. You know what I mean? We funded the scenario.
I mean, if you give, guns to kids, you can't expect anything good to happen. And so that's the way I look at it. In a very in a lawless part of the world, you gave, not very nice people guns. And these guys aren't very bright, and it got out of hand. They gave idiots guns who want to kill everybody. I mean, what they think was going to happen.
Well, and not only, we give them, when it comes to the Al-Nusra Front, who was inside of Syria, and we have John McCain over there slapping them on the back, saying they're freedom fighters, and we know they're the exact same people that were shooting at the Americans in Iraq just a few months earlier, and we're arming these guys to the teeth, literally. Then just the goat F, you know what I'm saying? The cluster F that we left of Iraq after a decade of occupation, leave them without a government, without security, without any kind of truly governable nation. But before we do that, before we're just going to walk out and leave it in a total pile of dung, we're going to arm the shit out of. We're going to arm the hell out of the Iraqi government. So when they do fall, you have more weapons pouring into the hands of people that eventually want to kill us. It is, it is a festering factory that is going to crank out terrorists, and we're funding it. We're helping it right along. So instead of like you said, seeing the fourth world reproduced version of an AK-47 from close enoughistan, they're out there with top level gear, and who knows how much gear they're going to get their hands on. When will they get Patriot missiles? When will they get hold of a bunch of Stinger missiles and have the capacity to knock airliners out of the sky? It's coming.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, I think if there was a good side to this, I do wonder if, I was reading a book recently, maybe it's a soft topic, I don't know, but I was reading a book recently, and it's called Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm Beyond the Doors of Perception into the Dreaming of Earth. It's by this guy named Stephen Herod Buhner, and he's a real eclectic kind of modern-day shaman. And one of the things that he talks about in this book is our perception gates. Mm-hmm. And as we go through kind of being a domesticated human, they close. And so we don't see, we don't feel. And where the Aboriginal people, who we all once were, they felt when they walked through life, when they walked through the woods, they felt as much as they saw with their eyes. And so I know the dates are, people have different views on this, but if Homo sapiens have been around, let's say 200,000 years hunting and gathering, and only domesticated for the last 10 or 12,000 years eating grain and things like that, we still have in our genome the ability to be a somewhat feral being again, and you have to realize that you are at least 100 to 200,000 years of the Aboriginal people with the best intuition. So you come from pretty smart people, and if people put the effort into turning that back on, you begin to feel. And so the way I look at it is, I have a belief that Americans, and just speaking for our own country right now, and I think the rest of the world, but especially here in America, is that people are starting to feel again. They're starting to get it because their perception gates are kind of being forced open. Because when the bull crap just gets so massive, you're either going to, like Hitler said, make the lie so big people can't help but believe it. I think Americans are not believing it.
I think you're right. Take us out of this. Take us to the break there, Craig.
All right. Well, go live in a tent in your backyard and get back to nature.
No, I was going to say. No, I was going to have you practice. This is Wide Awake News Radio. We'll be right back with more with Craig Simpson and me, Charlie McGrath. Hang tight.
Okay, so welcome back to Wide Awake Radio News. This is the final segment on the day of August 13th, 2004. This is Craig Simpson, your guest host.
Wait a minute. Did we jump back in time? Because you said 2004.
2004. Yeah, this is 2004.
Oh, you're the time host. You're the time traveling host. I wish it was 2004 again.
Yeah, and this show will be random years from now on, anywhere between 1780 to 4837.
Can you imagine if we could travel back in time, Craig, to 2004? Just the crap that would happen that we would know about, and if you were a money grubber, you would have an opportunity of, unbelievable wealth. Because you could say, look, I'm going to short the market in September 2008, and people are going to be like, what? Why? What are you talking about? And, just short the hell out of it, and then just watch your bankroll grow exponentially. And you'd look in 2004, you'd look forward 10 years, and you would understand the devastation that's coming to so many regions of the world. I mean, look how much more destabilized we are around this planet right now than we were in 2010. 2004. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So go. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It is crazy. I think, of course, I'd probably be wealthy if it was 2004. I would know what to invest in, etc. But it is crazy. I mean, the world is crazy. A lot of destabilization. But do you ever get the feeling and I think it maybe just comes from being in the military, having been to the Middle East, or maybe it's just an individual thing. Maybe some people have this or some people don't. But even though there might be, civil war, there might be World War III, who knows? There's a lot of violence in the city that I live in. Somehow, it all doesn't bother me. I'll watch people who really just worry about the world, and I don't know. I'm just not worried. I'm totally aware of all the things that can happen, but personally, am I worried about what might happen to me? No, I have empathy for humanity, but somehow personally, do you think it's kind of a veteran thing, or is that an individual thing, or I'm just not really worried?
Well, I'm not worried for my personal safety. I do believe there's scenarios where my personal safety and your personal safety could come under threat with current geopolitical situations, but in those scenarios that I'm thinking of, it really doesn't matter if you worry about it or not. I mean, because this would be, global nuclear war, and forget it. You're in Seattle. You're in Seattle, right?
I'm in Seattle.
You're dust. You're gone. You're out.
Oh.
So you won't even know. So why worry about it? You're just going to be a vapor spot. But I do think it's, as far as personal safety, do I worry about that? No, I don't worry about that. And maybe that is a military thing. I don't know. I mean, it might be, you might build up some a little bit of callous nature when you see those kind of things you see when you're in war zones. So I don't know. I guess I don't know. I think veterans are a lot more awake than any other segment of the population, but I also think they're a lot more battle hardened. So they probably can hear things and see things that would freak out a lot of people, and they can take it in stride.
That actually makes me think of something that happened to me last night. It was and I think this is having been in the military, and I think I was trained to be a point person because I was, young and single and had no fear of death, I guess, probably just crazy tough, And so I did a lot of training to be a point person, to be out front, who kind of leads the squad. Come this way. And we had a crazy captain who would train us, and we would get up like 5 a.m, go do yoga, got to do all this fascinating stuff. And
you did yoga in the Navy?
Yeah, in the Seabees. Yeah, as a point person. Well, not as like the group in general, like not as the Seabees, but being trained to be a point person. We had to learn to like feel through the texture of silence if somebody was around the corner and know without seeing them. So you kind of got to be this kind of modern day shaman in the military. You had to train to, feel the enemy. Where are they? Having been in the military, sometimes you can do some training that you'd never expected. And, so when I was sleeping last night, I kept waking up because sometimes my consciousness will go out and I can hear everything happening in the neighborhood. It's like I can hear for just hundreds of feet, and maybe that's a military thing where maybe your perception's turned up a little bit, but at the same time you've lost a certain fear, because I just think I go, well, you know what? If it's my time, it's my time, and there's not much I can do about it. You don't hear the one that gets you. But something I was thinking about is, if information was going to fix the world, wouldn't it be fixed already?
You would think so.
There's this idea that with the internet and with all the communication that we have, the awareness that we have, like, everybody knows what's going on. You really can't hide things. But I think to myself that, well, a lot of people only hear what they want to hear anyway. And so they only hear what's on Fox News, or they only hear what's on MSNBC or CNBC, I guess it is now. So even with all the information out there, people have perceptual filters that are massive. And that would be a question. I guess you already kind of answered it. But information, does it make a difference? Like, we know what's going on. We oftentimes know who the bad guys are. We know what's going on behind the scenes. But how do the people knowing that really influence world events?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, is there any more action because of information now than in the time of, like, Walter Cronkite, when, where you only had, in his heyday, when you only had a half a dozen, networks that were broadcasting the news? Do we have a more informed populace now than we did then? I don't know. I believe that we do, just by virtue of all these different mediums you can achieve information on, or receive information on. But as a whole, is the populace give a crap? Is it information overload? Is it too much to where they just F it, I'm listening to Jon Stewart, and then backing away from independent media, from mainstream media? Just too much information, too many different theories, too many different points of view. There's an argument that I think could be made for that. There's a lot of people that unplug because of that.
They unplug, and then also there's a bias. Like, living here in Seattle, I'm not really on the left or the right side of the fence, but it's very left here in Seattle, and the rest of the state, Washington State, is very to the right. So it's oftentimes like Seattle against the state of Washington. And I just noticed, like, you had the Cold War back when, Reagan and Gorbachev, and I think it worked so well that a Cold War between the left and the right, the red and the blue, was engineered in this country. And even with all the information we might have, we don't really ever look towards the man. It's like here in Seattle, if you were to ask the average, let's say, hipster on the street, how do we fix, Seattle, as if it's broken in the first place, and they would say, well, take all the money from the executives, tax Boeing more, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. There's tons of information, but how much real information passes through people's perceptual filters? Basically, your team left or your team right. I don't know. When I think about hope for humanity, the world getting better, I'm not so positive that information's going to make any difference. So I don't think it's going to make a difference. I agree with you on that. I don't think it's going to make. Look, everything's out there. If you want to live the truth on it, you can learn the truth on it. I mean, I've said this to Doug before, that I believe that people are going to be saying, for all the way up until the crap hits the fan, Craig, right up until the end, right up until it's at their front doorstep, people are going to be saying, this has all been done before. This is how it's going to work out. There's really nothing to worry about. They would never do this. It wouldn't get that bad. And they're going to say that, right? Even with the information available, even looking at events happening before their eyes, so all the information in the world can be out there, and it's still not going to break through, as you're talking about, these perceptions. People are going to believe what they want to believe, and in most instances, they have a vested interest in believing what they want to believe. Maybe they don't want to think about that future for themselves or people that they care about. Maybe they're so sold out on their ideology, be it communist or
capitalist or red team or blue team, that they automatically filter out any truth that would denigrate that organization, that cause. I got family members that are like that. I got family members that will not accept some news because it goes against a hard line belief of theirs. So, and you know what? You're right. The more information doesn't mean a more informed populace. It means more weapons, I do believe. But that doesn't mean I'm a proponent of less information, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's like when President Obama first became president, he said so many good things. I really kind of wanted to believe something good was going to happen from this. And, because I think maybe the only chance we really have is to keep pivoting left to right. It's about the only thing we can do to uproot a little bit of corruption and keep us free. And so he became president. Great things he said. And I'll admit, it was a good number of months when I ignored the bad press about him. Mm-hmm. I said, come on, we got to believe in something. It didn't last. But that's the problem, is that where you and I, you keep opening those perceptual filters, you realize, like, hey, wait a second, I have a filter which is not allowing me to believe that a President Obama can do anything wrong. I better get that out of my head because that's silly.
Right.
But I wonder.
Oh, I know what you mean. I mean, with my military background and growing up in a red state, and it was a hard job. It was like quitting alcohol, right? You really had to make the effort to do it. And for me, getting out of the neocon mindset, it was a battle. It was a battle. But once you're out of it, and once you're a free, independent thinker, I think you automatically gravitate to people like Ron Paul. That if you are a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, or if you're dyed-in-the-wool neocon, somebody like Ron Paul will drive you crazy, because it just seems like the duality that they have. Some things they sound liberal on, some things they sound conservative on. And some things they sound like they're from outer space on. But when you realize that, both systems are corrupt to their core and are designed to divide and conquer, then it starts to make sense. But you're right. You have to break through that lockstep love affair. If you think you're a neocon, or if you think you're a liberal, dyed in the wool, going to follow these guys off the cliff, you need to wake up and realize that, at the head of these organizations, at the head of these parties, they're dancing to the same tune, and they're dancing to the same master, and they're certainly not serving the people of this country.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's like George Washington said in his farewell to Congress. If anybody Googles that, he made an incredibly elegant argument and to not ever have parties.
Don't ever have parties. Yeah, I've read that.
Don't have political parties.
All right, Craig Simpson, thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight, guys. I'll be back tomorrow night with Eric Lovely at the same time. Have a good night. We'll talk to you then. Peace.
Out today to brush the dust with bulletproof vests away. It's ironic, at times like this you pray, but a bomb blew the mosque up yesterday. There's bombs on the buses, bikes, roads, inside your market, your shops, your clothes. My dad, he's got a lot of fear, I know, but enough pride inside, nothing let that show. My brother had a book he would hold with pride, a little red cover with a broken spine on the back. He hand-wrote a quote inside: when the rich wage war, it's the poor who die. Meanwhile, their leader just talks away, stuttering and mumbling for nightly news to replay. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like, what did he say?